Hello, I'm Sandy Bodzin, and I'm interviewing Howard Rubin today on March 13th. And how are you, Howard?
Except for the allergies, I'm fine.
Good. Tell us a little bit about your family history, how you got here.
Well, I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, and I stayed there through college. And after college, I said I needed to get out as fast as I could. So I went to law school at SMU. That's how I got to Dallas. But in terms of my family in Nashville, I have a sister. I grew up with a sister, and she's still there. She's executive assistant at the JCC in Nashville. I have several cousins, many cousins, first and second cousins who still live in Nashville. I try to get back there maybe once a year. I grew up pretty much typical, like many Jewish kids in the 1960s in the South. I was members of a conservative synagogue. My parents were exceptionally religious. My father started going to Minyan after we all left, so but my parents both worked, and I was involved in youth group stuff at the JCC in Nashville. Was in AZA, Athens of the South AZA, number 258 in Nashville. Was a regional district officer, attended one international convention, and then went off to Vanderbilt to go to college. At Vanderbilt, I was involved in probably, it wasn't called Hillel at the time. They didn't really have a Hillel, but it was the Jewish Students Union or something like that.
Yes.
And I was involved in that. I was involved in a Jewish fraternity, AEPI, and came here to go to law school and have been here ever since, starting in about 1971.
Do you know where your family came from originally?
Well, they came, that's a very good question. Generally came from Poland when it was part of Russia. I've been attempting to do some family genealogy things, and I've been royally unsuccessful in it. But my mother's family, I know a lot more about than my father's family, because my father's from New York, and we didn't really get to see them much. My mother's family came to the United States around the turn of the 20th century, and originally stayed in New York for a while, and then came to Nashville. My grandfather was your typical merchant, typical Jewish merchant. He ended up owning some property and having a dry goods store. And both my mother and my uncle, her brother, worked there. I was pretty close to my uncle, who eventually went to law school at night, became an attorney, and then became a judge for about 30 years in Nashville. So my grandparents, again, worked all the time, and even to the point that my grandfather didn't go to the Friday night service on the weekend I had my bar mitzvah. He had to close the store.
That's a shame. Okay. And you have siblings? You have a sister?
Yes, I have a sister who's 4 years younger than me, and we try to see each other around once a year, something like that. Hopefully, all the stars are aligned. We'll be going back to Nashville at the end of October for the Vanderbilt, Texas football game. At that time, I'll be able to see her. So far, we have my wife and me, my two daughters, and their combined 4 sons and husbands are all going to try to go to Nashville that weekend.
Okay, good. Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
Tell me how you met your wife.
Well, I met Ann at a Jewish singles party. Excuse me.
Okay.
Sorry about that. in Dallas in 1975. And we kind of hit it off immediately. We dated. She at that time was teaching school in McKinney, and I was in my first year of practicing law. I had been practicing law for probably 2 months when I met her.
Right.
And we were engaged in March of 1976, and then got married in July of 76. A relatively short engagement, I guess.
That's good.
We got married here in Dallas at Temple Shalom.
Okay. Where is Ann from originally?
Ann is another Southern Jew from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Her family has a lot longer history than my family does in the United States. So she can trace back her mother's side of her family to Mississippi in the mid-1800s. So periodically we've gone back to Louisiana and Mississippi and looked at some records and grave sites and visited with her family, most of whom are deceased by now.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And tell me about your own family, your kids.
Okay, our kids, we have 2 daughters. Jennifer, who's the oldest, is a CPA here in Dallas. Rachel, our younger one, is a nurse practitioner. She has a doctorate in nursing, and she lives in Atlanta. Jennifer works for a small family real estate company as the controller. And Rachel is, I don't know her exact title, but she's in charge of learning and education for the nurse practitioners and nurses at the Children's Hospital in Atlanta.
Okay.
And they both have 2 boys. Jennifer's boys, one of them will have a bar mitzvah next year. So their ages 12 and 10. And Rachel has twins who are also 10 years old.
Right around the same age as each other.
All at the same age. We bang, bang, bang. We just had 3 brisses pretty quickly.
I bet they have a good time together.
Most of the time, yeah. We'll be getting together with them this coming November.
Oh, good,
So.
good. Good, that's great. And tell me a little bit about what you've been doing here in Dallas
Okay, well,
since you moved here.
like I said, I went to law school at SMU, graduated in 1974. This will be actually in June, I'm going to the 50th, the dinner for 50-year attorneys in Texas. So I'll be practicing almost 50 years. I started out after law school working for a small law firm, and then I kind of went out on my own and then joined a couple of friends in a law firm for about 5 years, until one of them, who was older than me, several years older than me, passed away, unfortunately. So then I became another solo practitioner again. And then in 1989, I joined the predecessor to the firm that I'm part of now. And our firm now has been going since about 1999. I am done just about everything that a lawyer could do practicing law. I've handled early on criminal cases. I've handled civil rights cases. I've been to federal court, state court, bankruptcy court. Done some wills. So far, those wills that I've done, that people have passed away, I haven't had any criticism yet. You always worry about that. Make sure making sure you've done it right. And since about 1989, have done commercial litigation mostly. I retired in July of 2021, but then I took on a role handling helping the managing partner of our firm and handling, I guess, what you would call high-level administrative issues, such as purchasing, technology, and legal research. And our firm moved offices in 2022, so I helped with that. Setting up our new office, all the technical aspects of our new office.
Right.
So I mostly get to work from home now and go to the office usually about once a week for a few hours.
Okay. Tell me about your affiliation with the Jewish organizations now.
Well, I'll start back from 1975, or before actually. When I was in law school, BBYO had the same district director as we had when I was in high school, Bernie Klein. And so I got in touch with him, and he asked me to act, when I was in law school, so probably 73-ish, to help staff an LTI in Dallas.
Which means what?
Leadership Training Institute. So I did that, kind of liked it, and then I finished up law school and met Ann. And I'd always thought about being an AZA advisor. So I got back in touch. At that time, I don't know if Jeff Eisenberg had come to Dallas yet. I'm not quite sure about that. He may have. At any rate, he was the youth director at the JCC, and JCC and BBYO had an arrangement that the JCC would have a youth director, and that would also be the city director in Dallas at that time. Things have changed now. And we asked, so I asked Jeff if I could be an advisor, and he thought that was a good idea. And this, for some reason, Ann decided she wanted to do that, although given where she was from, she had no contact with BBYO. She was in the Reform movement, Temple movement. They didn't have BBYO in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I was trying to think about the exact dates, but somewhere in early 1976, maybe even before we were engaged, we became advisors. I initially was one of the advisors of Lewis AZA, and was the advisor of Kravitz. Her claim to fame is that she was Janie Schultz's advisor. And she reminds Janie of that periodically whenever we see her. Or maybe Janie reminds her of that, I don't know.
Yes.
But I was Lewis advisor for a few years. And then I helped start with another gentleman. We helped start Burger AZA, which I don't think is any longer around. But we started Burger AZA, and then after a couple of years of that, making sure the chapter got off the ground, I replaced two friends of mine as advisor of Eshkol AZA, which is no longer around either.
It was a new chapter then, too.
Relatively new,
Yes.
yeah. And after that, I decided, by that time it was 19, Ann stayed on, Ann was Kravitz originally, and then she moved to Weinstein. I take that back, she was with Kravitz the whole time, at that point in time. And Jennifer was born in 1979, and Rachel was born in 1982. And by that time, we had decided maybe we should spend time taking care of our kids. So we resigned as advisors. Ann actually resigned, I think, a year after I did. And from that time until mid-1990s, we didn't have a whole lot to do with the Jewish community. We were members of Temple Shalom. Then we moved to Shereth Israel. That's where both Jennifer and Rachel and their bat mitzvahs. And then in 1996, we decided we were going to become advisors again. By that time, Jennifer was getting into BBYO, had already gotten into BBYO, But she was real happy that we were advisors. That's the last thing she wanted to see is her parents being an advisor.
She wasn't. So
She
you
wasn't
said,
real happy,
no,
no, she was
that was
not
the-
happy about it at all. She and I have discussions about this, but she wanted us out of her business. Ann became advisor of Weinstein. BBG, I became advisor of Brandeis, and we stayed as advisors for at least 10 or 12 years after that. And during that time, I was also on the Dallas BBYO board, adult board. I was chair of the board for, I guess, 2 years, 1 or 2 years, I can't remember. Was involved with BBYO actually when BBYO made its formal split from B'nai B'rith and started a new organization. I was fortunate to actually be in the room when a lot of that was happening. Didn't have much of a say about it, but I was in the room. Also during that time, I became active as a board member, thanks to Fidel Shulkin, who got me interested, in Texas Hillel. And was a board member for several years. Eventually, in about 2012, I guess, something like that, I became board chair at Texas Hillel.
Tell me a little bit about Texas Hillel.
Well, I guess this happens with all the Hillel groups around. Hillel is I wouldn't say not well supported. I'm not sure I would look at it that way, but we're always looking for money, always looking for financial support. Texas Hillel is a very interesting model because it's in Austin. Austin has a great Jewish community, but the Jewish community in Austin can't support it 100%, so it has to seek funding from other sources. Because of the distances, mainly, at that time didn't get a whole lot of support from Dallas or Houston, the really big cities with really large Jewish populations. So it was always it was always an issue, trying to figure out ways of getting alumni and other Jews in the large cities to be supportive of the organization. I think I haven't had a whole lot to do with it lately. I think it's doing well. when I was, this is before I became board chair, they built a new building, had a very successful fundraising drive. I want to say they raised about $11 million.
Where is that?
At Texas Hillel.
At UT.
At UT, yeah. Enough to build a building and have a little bit of money to put in an endowment. So I haven't been back to Austin in a real long time, but I get periodic updates, and it sounds to me like everything's going just fine now. But I've always had an interest in supporting youth groups and college groups. I don't do a whole lot with Vanderbilt Hillel except contribute money, but
Which is great.
But I keep abreast of what's going on.
So when you say Texas Hillel, you mean UT?
At UT, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's Hillels locally.
Right, in at SMU and North Texas and a lot of different places in Texas. But I would say that the University of Texas, Texas Hillel is probably the largest.
Yes, exactly.
Has the most. Well, I take that, on the other hand, Texas A&M has a pretty darn good Hillel right at the time and now. I hear a little bit about that periodically.
Right, yeah. But the local one here is made up of several, what college is that?
I don't know how it's structured now. I'd be speculating, but I do know SMU, North Texas, University of Texas at Dallas. I want to say North Texas may have a UNT may have its own organization, but I just don't know.
Okay. interesting. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Well, no, there's certainly been a lot of changes in the Jewish community and in Dallas since I got here a little over 50 years ago. I do remember when I was in law school having a date with a young lady and going out to where she lived, and I went north on Hillcrest and kept going and going until Hillcrest turned into a dirt road. I was a little surprised by that.
A lot has changed.
Yes, and I have an old map of Dallas. I was here when I was in BBYO for a district board meeting back in 1966 or something like that. And I remember getting a road map of Dallas and not really paying much attention to it until I got to live here permanently, and I noticed that there was an airport where Park Central is now. Go figure that. I guess that was at that time it was the equivalent to Addison Airport. But there have been a lot of changes. When I moved here, 4 synagogues basically. Now I can't count them all.
Right.
And the Jewish community has grown, but I think in many ways it is probably a little less connected than it used to be.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I just think I think geography. Just people. We thought it was a little bit ridiculous, people moving out to Plano, and now we have folks in Frisco and McKinney, and
Right.
I assume there are Jews living in Salina. I go out to Salina occasionally, but it's basically becoming another big suburb of Dallas, maybe a suburb of Frisco. I don't know. It's just, but I think the demographic changes that I'm involved now with Congregation Anshe Torah. We've been members not since the show started, but the year after it started, we became members.
And what was it called then?
It was still Anshe Torah. Well, it was a merger between Anshe Emet, which had been a very small conservative congregation that had been around since, I want to say, the late 1970s. Because I remember we were actually members of that congregation for a year or so. And another Shomrei Torah, and it had just started. So I think Anshe Torah started in 1999, or 1998 or 99, 98, I believe.
In a different building now.
Oh yeah, it was in a, I want to say, kind of an office building with a big community room, and we were basically just members for a long, long time, and when somebody asked me to be on the board, that was a mistake for them. And eventually I did become president of the synagogue. And I think out of all the things I've done, the two things I've enjoyed most with respect to Jewish organizations was being a BBYO advisor and being president of Anshe Torah. I tell people, I said, I know a lot of people, past presidents, complain about it, and even when they were presidents, they complained about it. I had a blast. Working with a great rabbi and a great board and professional staff. I had no complaints.
You're fortunate.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's all I have to say.
Okay, well, good. I'm so glad that you shared this with us. And
Okay.
very interesting, and I appreciate you coming here today and letting me interview you.
All right. Well, thank you.